afternoon, the university students, the public out there who are part and always follow the inter-university conversations here every Thursday, 2 to 4 p.m. My name is Masesa Demiano, and I greet you, and I hope you've had the best of your holidays and still enjoying the festivities as they are coming. Today, I'm joined by Gulu University into this conversation, and Gulu University is in Group D. Group D that has had, we've seen Ambara University of Science and Technology, we've seen Kumba University, we've seen St. Lawrence University, and finally we are concluding Group D with the mighty Gulu University, who are set to share with us this afternoon and take on the conversation. Is highly active, and we hope to have the best out of Group D, because we are so much seeing potential in this group, and I hope we can have the best of the conversation. And this afternoon, as it's coming, we shall have the discussion and the topic that is being ahead of us. And this group is innovation is the world's biggest emerging employer, and the creative industry is the heart of innovations. Does Uganda have the necessary enablers for the sector? Joined in the call, I have, let me see how, as we are presented on the screen here, we have Tiondi Bosco. Tiondi Bosco is a student of Bachelor of Science in Food and Agribusiness. Tiondi, you can turn on your audio, say hello, a word to our viewers, and we proceed.
Hello, thank you so much. My name is Tiondi Bosco. I'm a student of Food Science and Agribusiness at Gulu University. I study at Faculty of Agriculture and Environment. Thank you.
Thank you, powerful Bosco. Then we're followed by Onenrwot Brian. Onenrwot Brian is a student of law. Brian.
Yes, good evening, everyone again. My name is Onenrwot Brian. I'm a student of Faculty of Law, Year 1 at Good University.
And I'm Nobert Ayella.
Thank you very much, Brian. Then I have, I'm presented by Leka Diana Campus. Leka, good to see you.
Thank you very much, dear moderator. I'm Diana Campus. I'm a third-year law student from Good University. I'm so glad to meet CCG for such a wonderful program, and my fellow panelists. I think it's going to be a satisfying, productive program that we are going to have now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lake. Finally, we have Ayella Nobert Mao.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Nobert Mao Ayella. I thank everyone, and I thank my panelists for attendance, and I will be ready to go on the discussions.
Thank you very much, Ayella. Right into the conversation, I need to give us a preamble that would set us into the conversation. And to pick from, I think I'll zero this conversation a little on the NDP3 of our country. And of course, chapter 17 of the NDP 3 is innovation, technology development, and transfer. And right in there, it says countries that invest in research and innovation, as well as those that support regulated technology, importation and adoption, are able to transform faster. And of course, together with the ICT, this enables the acceleration of the entire economy, and this supports the digital transformation and the move towards digital health, digital agriculture, digital manufacturing, digital cities, among others. Technology is often imported and adopted through external trade, while science and innovation are largely born and are bred in country through tertiary institutions, like we know, and tertiary institutions of learning, as well as technology incubation centers. And of course, we are seeing quite a lot of government pushing here and there to incorporate innovation, science and technology into our day-to-day engagements, especially at the universities and the tertiary institutions of higher learning. I think that's why we need to draw our conversation. And to begin our debate, I need to invite the only lady who is on the panel, Lake. I always pronounce it as Leka, but Lake then I think is the right one. Lake Diana Campus. You set pace for us, and I will invite in the other panelists also join into this first part of the conversation or the first question. The first question goes, what would you understand by creativity and innovation? You could also state some examples, if any.
Thank you very much, dear moderator and CCG at large, for such a wonderful program. Our theme for today is innovation has been the world's emerging biggest employer, and the creative industry is the heart of innovation. So we realize that when we talk about innovation, innovation is coming up with something really new or coming up with a new idea. In other words, it's said that it is a practical implementation of ideas that result in the introduction of new goods or services or improvement in offering goods or services. So innovation often takes place through the development of more effective products, services, technologies, work, business models, and others. So when we talk about innovation, we have various kinds of innovations. We have the sustaining innovation and disrupting, where sustaining innovation looks at improvement of production or services based on the known needs of the current customers. Then disruptive is a process by which a new product or services creates a new market. So that is all about innovation. Then what about creativity? So creativity is a tendency to generate or reorganize an idea or ideas or alternatives, possibilities that may be useful in solving problems which is in a particular area. So in other words, creativity is the ability to generate an idea. So moderator, we realize that creativity and innovation moves together and they work hand in hand. Without the ability to do something, you cannot innovate, or there is nothing that you can come up with as an idea. So when we talk about creativity, we realize that creativity opens the minds of the society, in that the lost touch of the society cannot be realized. And we find that once there is creativity and innovation, the society will not be imprisoned. Without a new idea or the ability to do that idea, the society can't move on. And there is nothing like the society can't move on. And we realize that the current status of the country with creativity and innovation in Uganda is that Uganda has moved ahead in development of innovation and creativity of its country, because they realize that the standards of its people and the move of its state their life depend on innovation and creativity. That's a brief background on creativity and innovation. Thank you very much, moderator.
That's an interesting one, Leka, and you've given us those two descriptions of the two issues that possibly would be so much interested in engaging in further. I would also want to invite in Brian to see how far we can go with this conversation. Brian? Yes, Brian, we are trying to understand and give context to our conversation. What would you understand by creativity and innovation? And also, I would invite you to cite in some examples, if any.
Thank you for this opportunity given to me once again. Basically, the basic understanding on innovation and creativity, just like my previous panelist said, the idea of creativity revolves around the ability to generate new ideas or the ability to generate new, let's say also new analysis and new trends that are able to generate something that is significant development of an economy. So basically, what creativity does is to generate something that is significant for the development of the country in something that brings in a new trend into the economy or a new trend into the development of an economy. Now, basically what innovation does is innovation seeks to improve something that is basically in existence or seeks to initiate something that is overtly new into the development ties into an economy. So the idea of innovation and then creativity is just to steer up the development of a country. It's just to change the development trends positively. So at the end of the day, when innovation and creativity seeks to expand the job opportunities, when innovation and creativity seeks to set a pace into increasing job opportunities and employment opportunities in the country, that is where the positive development in creativity and innovation comes in. For example, let's take into the analogy of the bus. Okay, let's say the innovation that was taken into account by the Chambogo students, that's the Kaya Bus initiative. You see that, those kinds of creativity and innovation is what is needed to, let's say, initiate into the country a new trend of development, so that at the end of the day, there is some form of economic growth that is got from ideas that are outside the box. Yeah, so basically, I think that's it for the beginning.
Interesting. That's a good one. And of course, you bring an example of the Chambogo students. You bring in, is that with a bus or that's the car, the Kira EV or something? Or maybe it's what you're trying to mean?
Yes, the KREV.
Okay.
Sorry?
Maybe which is okay. It's a good example for innovation and creativity. And of course, like had already given us the description on these two. Further, maybe I will also need to invite in Bosco to also shed some thoughts on this as then we conclude with Ayella and we see how to go to the second set of our conversation. Bosco, you need to turn on your audio.
Yeah, I'm now clear. Thank you so much, our moderator. I think to give a general hint, I think the National Development Plan of Uganda and actually the Sustainable Development Goal that the world seeks to attain is centered within the aspect of innovation and creativity. Now, like what my colleagues have said, creativity is basically dealing with ideation. In ideation, we think that you put the mind into work, and this mind generate ideas that gives new perspectives to what is in a society. And in creativity generally I think deals with actually harnessing the power of available resources that is available to an individual, to a group, or to a community. We think that in creativity, it doesn't need you to actually look for what is so complex that you cannot handle. Creativity only deals with how you can actually be able to give an idea to what is actually available that you can harness using the available skills, available resources, and perhaps even if not available, but something that is within reach. And that's why we think it's very relevant for the community, because in like contemporary times where they maybe take example of when COVID-19 came in place and we have restrictions in movement and gathering. Now someone can give an idea creatively of why can't we maybe link on maybe virtually, why can't we link on phone. So when such ideas are given time for study or given time to experiment, it can result into innovations like the Zoom app that we use. It can give them solving the problem. For example, we see how the Gulu University lecturers came with the COVID-19 herbal medicine that is used to cure COVID-19. For example, what came from Bara University, the COVID-X. So such innovation that come out of study from what the ideas that you generate brings about, and you put it into practice, and you bring something that can solve problem that exists. And you see that's why things like COVID-X came in place to ensure that we innovatively solve such problems. You see, that's why innovations like Zoom technology came in place to ensure that we will be able to also address issues of maybe meeting in more safe and easier way. So we think when something new has been brought up through maybe study or maybe through experimentation and introduce it to an environment, it becomes an innovation. But when you give a new perspective through ideation to a given problem or to a given situation, and then that becomes creativity in this matter. Thank you so much.
That's powerful, Bosco. You've given us those two dynamics that are really and highly practical, including the examples that you've cited through the lockdown and what we've seen coming through the different innovations and putting our minds to work to seeing that we have the different medications that were out there. And of course, that is quite interesting ideas and examples to give for this conversation going forward. And yes, I want to finally bring in Ayella on this one and see to it that we close this segment of the conversation. Ayella?
Conversations around innovation and creativity, to me, as Ayella Nobert is centered around man's survival and man's propelment to live in society that is moving with his strength. For instance, let's look at from the time of an early man travel of how his genesis is to fit into society. That's where I believe that with creativity, it's about the use of the skills that man has and the use of the difference of what is around him with the skills and the mental strength of fitting into the society on basically how he can harness that skill and propel him to fit into society. And therefore, the conversation that comes around innovation comes with the use of resources around us and the use of what is around us in order to fit in and survive into society. That's why we find that in the trend of life, different governments and different students always come with their ideas to create different things that make them to fit into society and survive into societies. That's why the example that comes from my panelists, that is Brian, about the use of the skills that brought out the use of the bringing out of the different cars that were brought by Chambogo students. That was the use of the skills and the innovative mind that is aimed at surviving in society, because the trend of society, we believe that moves around the social conversation, economic conversation, and then the political conversation. And therefore, the world that we live in can only survive through helping to fit. And therefore, the only way I see that the man lives in society by the use of the innovations and the creativity is to survive society. That's why you see that a person always will choose his skill to help him survive in a society and move with the trend of life. That's why when COVID came in, we saw a different mass of the people. We see that America brings in an innovation of the drugs that are aimed at vaccinating people who already have not contracted COVID, but it is to reduce the disease. And that is survival in instance. And therefore, the conversation around innovation and creativity, to me, is about how man survives with the skills that he has, that he uses for the creativity, and therefore with the use of the resources that are around him to move into the trend economically, socially, and politically, in the sense of living and surviving and moving on with the trend. Thank you.
Interesting, Ayella, huh? And now you close this conversation. Innovation and creativity is about survival and how man has survived around the issues and all the possibilities that are around them to tap into. And this is an interesting conversation. And I'd want to further bring in Leka. Now we are getting closer to the practicability of the conversation. And since this is all about innovation and creativity, I think we'll need to give real life examples and what we are faced with. But importantly, why do you think it is important to study possibly these issues, and is it really important to adopt creative means and innovation in our system of work currently?
Thank you very much, dear moderator. it is really important for us to adopt the idea of innovation and creativity. Why do I say this? There is a man that said that a society without innovation and a society without creativity, it's a society in prison. And with the ability of someone to do something, where the government can start from that particular person, there it's a development of that particular person and society at large. So it is very important for us to adapt. It's very important for us to adapt the idea of creativity. One, because it enhances the mind and enables alternative ways of thinking of the society. Because once a mind is enclosed to a particular idea, nothing can come out of it. Uganda have a dream of achieving a middle income status. Now, how are we going to develop our economy without having the mind of the society developed? So through creativity, we realize that the minds and thinking of the society always evolve. Now, what about innovation? Innovation allows organizations to stay relevant in the competitive market. Right now, without innovation, we cannot realize a market of a particular idea. For example, during COVID-19, when COVID broke out, we had people came up with an idea. Gulu University had the COVID. There's a man from Lira that had COVID-X. And what happened? Uganda gained its economy. How? Because this medicine helped in treating COVID-19. And they went out. This is because of the innovation in the state. So this is why we feel that it is very important for us to come up with this, because it will enhance the economic growth and the ability to solve critical problem at hand, because at the time COVID was a critical problem at hand, and really it has subsidized. Not only that, there is innovation and creativity brings about positive change. Changes are inevitable. We can't stop changes. It can't come negatively or positively. But now with innovation and creativity, positive changes coming in that the idea that someone has and the idea that someone has and the ability of that person to do particular things, it brings changes in the in the lives of the people. We realize that innovation and creativity raises the standard of living of people in the society, because before, as my fellow panelist Ayella gave us a background of how man started living during the Stone Age, where man used to eat raw food, but because of the ability and the innovation that man came up with, man was able to set up fire and eat cooked food. So this is why we feel innovation, it is very important in transforming our society. So I go by the idea that with innovation and creativity, really it is very important, and we have to adopt it for a transformed, developed, and changed, improved standard of living of our country at large. Thank you very much, moderator.
Sorry, I'd unmuted. I didn't unmuted. So I was trying to invite in Brian. Brian, do you think it is also important to have this study and of course adopt the creative means and innovation in our day-to-day affairs of our country and also our system generally? Picking from what Dan has given us and picking from how we started off the conversation.
Okay, sorry, I hadn't unmuted. Okay, just like I was saying, drawing back from the introduction that we had, the definition of creativity and innovation is just about how you are able to develop ideas outside the box, and you're able to implement those ideas in terms of new innovations that are able to change the trend of development or to change the trend of things. So basically, why I think it's very important to study the idea of creativity and innovation is, first of all, from the bare background that you see, the society that man lives in is basically an evolving society. So basically, from the trend of events, we're likely going to be having new challenges. We're likely going to be having a whole new trend of events. So it is very imperative that we actually keep on evolving with society. That's where the idea of creativity and innovation becomes very imperative, because with the idea of creativity and innovation, you're able to harness the resources that are basically around you and you're basically able to think outside the box and be able to cope with the new development that comes in society. That is basically one. The idea of creativity and innovation helps society to stay relevant and cope with the changing dimensions or changing trend of events. That is basically the first thing. But then the second thing is the idea that basically the idea of creativity and innovation helps us to stay competitive in the competitive economy. You realize that in the economy that we have today, both domestically, that is nationally, and then internationally, there is the idea of a competitive market. Basically, the capitalist economy is a competitive economy. So the only way we can stay relevant, both nationally and internationally, is when we are able to create new ideas. Is that if we're able to create new developments that are able to make, let's say, our productions more efficient, our productions more effective, and also less costly, that is where we gain in the competitive capitalistic market. That is where also the idea of creativity and innovation plays a very big role in that case. But then lastly, we think that the idea of creativity and innovation is a basic player in solving societal problems. Now, for example, let's say a whole new problem that comes in the society. Let's say, for example, the COVID-19 situation that was able to come in at the end of the day. So you realize that this was basically a very new trend of events. This was a new virus that no one had prepared for. But then the idea of creative thinking and innovation led the world actually to come up with a vaccine in less than the 18 months that actually the scientific innovation and protocol thought it would be. So for example, let's say we thought development of a virus would take something like 18 months, but then because of the idea of creativity and innovation, we're able to come up with these vaccines in less than 18 months. So this means that creativity and innovation is able to avert a whole lot of world problems that might come at the end of the day. So these are basically one of the three reasons why we think that the idea of creativity and innovation is highly part and parcel of a developing economy. Thank you.
Interesting on that one, Brian. Thank you. And of course, then also for that, I don't want to get all of us glued onto that part of the conversation. I just want to bring it another dynamic, which I want Bosco and Ayella to engage with. Bosco, to begin with you, what creative and innovative skills are needed today, and what would be the best approach for possibly the government to ensure we deliver on this? The mic, try to unmute.
The question once again.
Yeah, I was trying to say what creative and innovation skills are needed today, and what would be the best approach for example, the government to ensuring that we deliver on these areas. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. On what best creative ideas, what best innovation and creative ideas are needed today? I think what is needed today right now is we need a technological advancement, which is majorly centered around digital transformation. I think right now the government needs digital transformation agenda to be actually incorporated in any development program, and also be operationalized locally and at the national level. I think when we focus on digital transformation, it will be able to actually shorten our work rate, work time, reduce delays in activities, and I think it is also very important. But besides actually digital transformation, which is majorly ICT needed, I think we also need technological transformation, which is very important in transforming our agricultural systems. Because we realize that in innovation, we need much innovation in our agricultural sector, which is actually the backbone of the country. So we think we also need technological advancement and innovative ideas in the areas of agriculture that is very much important for transforming our rural agricultural communities, which can be able to deliver Uganda's best transformative idea in taking this country to middle income economy by 2040. So I think the best approach of how we can achieve this, we need inclusiveness, first of all. We think that societies need to be we need to have participatory approach to ensure that such ideas are supported. We think I think government need to also strategize in through maybe the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Ministry of Innovation, Ministry of Education, to ensure that such innovative ideas are enshrined as part and parcel of our curriculum. And I think when it's part of our curriculum, it must also be given a fundamental a priority in terms of funding. Now, when you look at the research grant that is at Macquarie University, and you look at how creative Ugandan scientists are, especially in higher education institutions, we think there's a problem of shortage of funding, which actually limits such innovations from actually progressing and flourishing to actually to national level. So we think governments should also prioritize funding of innovation, especially at higher education institutions, to ensure that our research findings that are innovative and creative in solving our problems are given priority under the Ministry of Education or Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, to ensure that they are given priority, such that whatever comes and whatever is needed to maybe support it is there in place. So we think such enabling environment like government support towards such innovation, especially in our education system, is very important. But first of all, we also need to ensure that these such things are enshrined up to the local level. We think that if these innovative ideas or innovative minds are actually incorporated into curriculum, we think it will actually build a better breed of young Ugandans who will actually come with better ideas actually at the local level. We have seen most expos be organized, but most of the innovation that come in these expos, in these science expos, have not been taken up. So the best approach is to ensure that we do our fact finding, and then we also whatever comes out of such finding be taken up and also be able to be supported to have both financially and technically to ensure that it is developed to the best level. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting with what you're saying. And of course, I'm sure we have people who follow in so much and are part of the government, and especially the stakeholders and the people for policy and the highly influential in these areas. And speaking from some of these conversations, we hope that much can be done. Especially we have the team from Uganda that is I think Uganda-Business and Technology or Technical Education that Uganda that is highly into areas of innovation for higher institutions, and because it's a segment, it's more they're interested in the tertiary institution approach. But I think also we have students that are enrolled from the university and join UBTEB as kind of exams, and there's a lot of hands-on activities that are happening into their grading and their a segment of the education in the tertiary institution. I think if much of, for example, what Bosco you've raised would really be picked up, it is something that would do well for us and going forward, especially with innovation and creativity. We also see Busitema University. I don't know how much Busitema University is grounded on issues innovation and technology. Around this time is when we would have seen them really shining in the time of the lockdown, but surprisingly we saw Mast and Gulu developing things. Yet really Busitema is an institution that's highly practical, and on technology they would be leading so much. I want to bring in Ayella. Ayella, just speaking from what Brian has Bosco has said, please, I would want to pick your mind on this as well. What the creative and innovative skills that you think we could incorporate into our day-to-day lives, and of course, which government should pick on and ensure that they deliver on them. Ayella, try to get back and start afresh. Your audio is lost.
I was trying to say
I can hardly hear you. I don't know whether the rest are hearing you. But if possible, you could just hold your headphones in one place and see to it that you speak. Try to speak again and see.
Put the microphone near the mouth.
Try to hold that microphone close to your mouth and we. Yes, try to speak. I can't hear you. Can we hear him, the rest of us?
I think he should get rid of the
No,
microphone.
it's not clear.
Let him get rid of the earphones.
You were a little audible in the beginning. Can you try to work without the earphones and we see again? Try to remove the earphones and we. Okay, let's have. Now you can speak.
this. Yeah. I was trying to
Okay, what I'll do, Ayella, I think I've completely failed to get you, and I do not want to lose those thoughts because they would help us so much. Try to rectify that issue, and I'll give you a chance to speak again. Try to work with your audio, and once it is clear, then we can get back. Let me try to bring in. Hello, can I bring in Diana? Diana, let's try it as Ayella is trying to rectify that. Let me bring you in.
All right.
Yes. So Diana, right there, we're having a conversation. What can the innovation, let's say, what can the activation of innovation and entrepreneurship protect the national economy from the forecasted slowdown in the growth? Or can the activation of innovation, yeah? Can you hear me? Diana,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Can the activation of innovation and possibly entrepreneurship protect the national economy from possibly the forecasted slowdown of the economic growth?
First, pardon on the question. I didn't hear the last statement.
Okay. If we do, can the activation of innovation and entrepreneurship protect, for example, our economy in the areas where we have slow economic growth, especially, for example, in the lockdown, for example? Do you think if we had done so much of innovations and creativity around this time, would be much more stronger as an economy?
Thank you very much, moderator. To me, I think activation of innovation and creativity indeed can boost our economy in this period. Because when we take a look at Uganda of 2012 and the Uganda of 2020, it is different. Why? Because of the innovation and the creativity that we had. Now, if we are to look at, if we are to foresee the Uganda, which will be in 2030, trust me, moderator, we shall not be in the same state due to the creativity and innovation, because the life of Ugandans as a country is based on innovation and new ideas that is brought in. So I feel like for our entrepreneurship and economic we really need to improve, because with innovation, we have always been having a challenge of financing, market laws, and implementation. All these are brought, realize that the ability of a particular person or a sector, let me say the agricultural sector with its innovative idea being developed, can move on, and the country is going to achieve its economic growth, and in a long run the standard of living is going to be improved. Now, moderator, there was a report that was brought in by the Pan-African Competitiveness Forum, which was launched in 2008. And it is stressed out that the poverty reduction and the sustainable development of Africa lies in strengthening innovation and creating innovative business clusters and ensuring creativity build-up. So through this report, we see that, yes, once we have created the ability, we shall achieve it. Not only that, even the European Union in 2011 wanted to transform and change itself into innovation union. Why? Because of the importance and the foreseenness of how innovation and creativity can bring up in the development and sustainable living of the state and its citizens. Not only that, even Finland in 2009 re-evaluated its innovation system to prepare its future. So what about the country like Uganda? For us to prepare our future, for our entrepreneurship to come up, our economic from its chambers or ditch that it is in right now to be improved in this trying period of COVID-19. Moderator, with the development and encouraging the career and the ability of innovation and creativity, trust me, the country will not be in the same level. So I go by the idea. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Brian, I want to invite you again. And of course, from what Diana shared, I don't want to ask to miss out the other segment, or that Ayella should have weighed in, but you could also give a rejoinder at some point on what Diana has shared. But I want you to just shed some thoughts on the skills that are needed today, and what would be the best approach that we deliver.
Okay, thank you, moderator. And embarking on the question of what kind of creative and innovative ideas Uganda needs to, let's say, steer up their development. First of all, I'd like to follow through what Tiondi Bosco has basically said. Initially, we think that Uganda should utterly embrace the tech development idea to actually improve on its development goals. Because if we are basically to analyze the situation that COVID-19 put us in, so let's start by analyzing that situation. You see that markets were closed, producers couldn't access their consumers. You see the aspect that workers were laid off because the offices were supposed to be decongested following the COVID-19 protocols. And at the end of the day, you see that many entrepreneurial activities came to a standstill because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, basically, the whole new creative and innovative solution to this was to actually embrace tech development, was to actually embrace the idea that actually you see a lot of selling and buying things should be done online, so that at the end of the day, producers will be able to access their consumers even when they don't get to meet in physical markets. So that's why you see that the idea of innovation came into place. For example, over Jumia became very famous because of the COVID-19. So at the end of the day, we think that tech development helps us to solve a whole lot of problems. For example, even when COVID-19 goes on, and even when there's no more COVID-19 in the near future, realize that there is an aspect of distance between consumer and then producer. So we think that tech development is able to solve all these problems at the end of the day. But then also realize that by the mere fact that Zoom meetings are able to be conducted online, so workers can be able to access their, so let's say employees can be able to access their employers even without physically getting to meet them. And you see, the office, let's say the office space can be expanded even online without people actually getting to meet in those offices. So I think the most important aspect of creativity and innovation that can be harnessed by, that can be incorporated into the Ugandan system is actually tech development. So basically, that's what I think is the scenario in this case. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting on those concepts. Tiondi, I would want to just leave this open to you to just weigh in on the issue of activation of the innovation and the to weigh. And in the second segment of our conversation, I'm going to just allow a free flow where any of you could ask the other any question that they from where we started to see if really we are on the same page, but also anything out of the box that you think we can any of your colleagues can really weigh in as we get into the second part of the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope my mic is yes. Thank you. Now on the conversation around innovation and entrepreneurship and how we can protect our economy. Before independence, you can witness that countries like Uganda and countries like Singapore are almost at the same level of development. They have not have no advanced infrastructure, no advanced system. The education system is merely the same. But we give a case scenario when take the 21st century and the current year, and you compare the economy of let's say Taiwan, let's say maybe South Korea, and maybe let's say the Russia. We are saying via the economy and via industrialization and technology that they have invested in so much through innovation. And you compare a country like Uganda that has gone through a period of unsettled economy, of poor and develop, let's say, develop education system and let's develop infrastructure, you consider that the level of economy is actually very different. Now, when you compare the two, you think that you realize that when we give priority to creativeness and innovation, and you give its advantage to the entrepreneurial sector in the economy, you realize that a country like Russia, that you think even small compared to Uganda, actually export more fruits than Uganda right now. Now, our Ugandan students currently go for agri-intensive studies in Israel because Israel, if you compare to Uganda, is actually less smaller than Uganda. So it means by common man's thinking, must have less productivity level compared to Uganda because first of all, we have more arable land, we have more endowed natural resources, we have more water, free water. We have one of the best free water lakes, Victoria here, and we have actually a better rainfall compared to countries like Uganda and Egypt. But now let's see, we give a priority to innovation and entrepreneurship. You find that when you adopt an innovative sector, and you give it a priority to blend the entrepreneurial sector, you realize that even in sectors like agriculture, you ensure that there's improved productivity, and this improved productivity is going to generate obviously more profit, and this more profit, when you repatriate it, can give better sustainability to the economy. Now, if you compare the debt level of Uganda to a country like Taiwan, to a country like maybe Singapore, you find that we have from what we have harnessed through the power of technology, we're going to have more productivity. Our agricultural sector is going to be more profitable, and we're going to actually have more exports. Why? So this is what I see. Blending technology with the entrepreneurship gives better sustainability to our economy, and this better sustainability will be able to reduce costs. And when these costs are reduced, so that is briefly what I see. when we put innovation, especially through technological development, where we are going to have better access to electricity. Now, this is a bigger challenge that the country faced during the lockdown, because people failed to attend studies, because even if you have the phone, you don't have the electricity in most rural areas where our students come from. And I think this is a bigger challenge that if we compare to countries like, let's say, South Africa, which has at least better education system. Because why? Better technological advancement in maybe electricity and infrastructure, and this has helped them actually the entrepreneurial sector to flourish. You see, Uganda, you import apple. You come to Gulu supermarket, you buy apple that is coming from South Africa. Why? Because they have incorporated technology and to entrepreneurship, which helps them to have better production system and better accumulation of profit. And I think this is also very relevant for Uganda, because it's going to ensure that there's sustainable systems and sustainable delivery of services to the people, and sustainable healthcare and education systems that are very paramount to the people. Thank you.
Powerful, powerful. That is very powerful from you, Bosco. I need to open up this third segment of our conversation to all of us. It is the first time I'm doing this onto these conversations, and I'll need to allow to ask directing it to whoever you feel should answer it. Then from then we cross over to the other segment of our conversation. So I need to, who goes first? Who is firing who first? Diana is laughing. Maybe she's ready to fire Brian. Can you? Or Brian, you will do the vice versa.
Okay, Brian. Brian, what's the status of Uganda in terms of innovation and creativity, and what's the legal framework the government has come up with to enhance innovation and creativity upheld in the country?
Excuse me, first come again with a question.
My question is, what is the current status, the status quo of Uganda in innovation and creativity, and what are the legal framework, or what's the framework that the country or the government has come up with that, since we have realized that innovation and creativity has been a step up for our economic, political, social development of the state?
Okay, thank you, Diana, for that question. So if I recollect properly, the first question is about the status of Uganda in relation to creativity and innovation. And then secondly is the question of the legal framework that Uganda is adopting to maybe improve the status of creativity and innovation. Now, to begin with the first question, I think Uganda is gradually a developing economy, and the concept of creativity and innovation in relation to Uganda's situation is actually that which is a moderate one. Now, I'll point out to a trend, for example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, because that was where the idea of creativity and innovation was basically incorporated into the Ugandan system. I'll point out to the fact that there were many businesses that were started up online. For example, the relationship between buyers and sellers, accessing stuff and all those other things, advertisement, and then sales marketing that was being done online, for example, through the Gigi Uganda, and then through the Jumuia apps that were being done. So that's all basically concepts of creativity and innovation, let's say, in the fields of entrepreneurship. And also in the fields of education, you realize that there were many educational websites that were being put online. For example, the Gwele, the Muele, all those other educational institution sites that were being incorporated into the system. So basically, to put everything in a nutshell, I think Uganda has a status of creativity and innovation that is basically still growing. For example, you realize that following the trend from 2002 to 2010, only about 1% of the creative innovation sites were active. But then from that moment, from 2010 up to now, we think that Uganda has basically slowly but gradually incorporated the concept of creativity and innovation, because we realized that through the period of 2010 to 2020 is basically the period where the idea of the Kira motors by the Kambogo students were also basically being concepted into the status of Uganda. But then also answering the last question of the legal frameworks that is being undertaken by Uganda, we think that from that period up to now, the government of Uganda, through its policy frameworks, have gradually been helping in instituting the idea of creativity and innovation. I'd first of all like to point out to the educational websites or the educational institutions that were being, education activities that were being done online. Realize that Uganda is zero rating access to, let's say, educational websites. For example, the Gwele website is being zero rated in tax, and then also the Mwele website is also being zero rated on tax. So we think that the government policy and the policy framework is gradually moving into a place where it favors creativity and innovation. So with that, we think that the government of Uganda is strongly, let's say, supporting the idea of creativity and innovation. And that is what we think is also one of the aspects that is more important for the development of creativity and innovation in the country. Unless you have any question, I think I'm done.
No question.
You can also fire back to Diana. Bosco will ask both of you.
Not now.
Bosco will ask both of you. So yeah. Or Bosco goes first. Bosco, you can fire both of them. Yes, Bosco, the floor is yours. So you have both of them by the horn.
I think I'll begin with Diana Campus. Yes, Campus on innovation and creativity. What do you think governments should do to ensure that technology at local levels, let me say maybe at primary or secondary levels, what strategy do you think governments should use to ensure that technology, innovations and creativity at that level is uplifted? Strategy do you think the government should use to uplift the status or creativity and innovations at those levels?
Thank you very much, Bosco. I think what government should do, has Brian given a very good example on policy that is supposed to be brought out, because without a policy that will govern a specific aspect, there is nothing that can happen. So it has to be, that policy once passed, it has to be enforced. Enforcement of that policy does not mean it should be within the upper levels. It has to come back down to the grassroots, because in every development of every move in life starts with the grassroots. Not only that, the government has to build capacity of those local level innovative young people, especially the youth, because most of the youth startups, their level of innovation is very low. For example, I have a friend who had an idea of making liquid soap, and that idea was really innovative, and it's an innovative idea and it was very good. But now what was the problem? Capacity building was the problem. Now another thing is financial difficulty. So such people in such a level, government should come up with a policy that can finance such people to enhance the development of that particular innovation. You will find that once they are being financed, their capacity is being boosted, they'll move to another level. Not only that, there is also need to easy access to ICT or technology, because because accessing internet has become a problem to these young local people, because the taxes that are imposed on them are really high, and you know, when you're being taxed and at the same time you have to buy data for you to access a particular site or for you to market yourself, because during COVID-19, physical marketing became a challenge and people moved from marketing out there into the into the technological aspect of marketing where you can market online. So now for them to access it, they are being taxed. So government should come up with an idea or a strategy that will reduce such tax rates on this young local entrepreneur or innovative person that is coming up to build he or herself, so that they are built up and the economic transformation is boosted. I think I've answered your question or anything else. Okay, Brian.
Okay, I just wanted to bring this analogy that the other way that Uganda can stop unnecessary spending is by making the goods which it imports from outside. So that is basically the import substitution strategy. So the question is, how can the idea of creativity and innovation play positively to achieve an import substitution strategy?
Now, the thing is, the idea of innovation, first of all, the idea of innovation can find that in a sense that once we build the internal, because first of all, we have a challenge of perception. I want to bring to this discussion that the people here, the internal people, or even the government itself, has a challenge of perception of our internal products or our internal goods. For example, right now, Uganda had COVID. Now, the foreign investors or the foreigners had their medicine and they had their vaccines, of which Uganda had. COVID was part of innovation that Uganda came up with. But right now, where is COVID? People have adopted because the perception that we have within that COVID is not reliable to us made us leave it. And right now, I can't go buy it and hoped it to go and vaccinate myself or buy other medicine from outside to fight against COVID. Now, what am I trying to bring here? Realize that what I'm trying to bring is that let us first of all fight the perception inside and boost and build the capacity of the whatever product that we have and whatever entrepreneurial goods that we have in order to enhance that innovation and creativity fights that particular issue that we are having right now. So I think.
Interesting. Is Ayella back? I see we must be joined by him for a long time. Ayella, can you say a word again?
Back.
You're back. Have you been following closely?
Yeah, I've been following the conversation.
Okay, can you turn on your video and I see where you are? Perfect. I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask Bosco a question, and then as we're getting into our fourth segment of the conversation, I will also give you an opportunity to speak. But any question you have for Brian, for Bosco?
Brian, I've answered you.
On strength, how can as a small country move into a competitive one and use its resources with its local citizens that are mapping up to become how can Uganda make different citizens can
Yeah, I think we still have issues with your audio. It breaks. We can't hear you well. Are you without headphones?
Yes.
Try to put them back again and you speak and you see we didn't hear anything at all. Can you say what? Can you say what and we say?
Yes.
Can you say what? without your video on. First, turn off your video. Turn off your video. Okay, say something.
Yes. Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Now go on without turning on your video.
Mm. I wanted Bosco to throw his mind around Ugandans who are not picking up the innovations. Let me say the illiterate Ugandan that is within the villages, and a Ugandan whose perspective about technology and innovations that come from the other world. Let me say the slow thinking and the slow response to vaccination that are innovations from the other world. How can Uganda as a country put into, with the innovation and the good use of its creativity, make this citizen aware and pick up the conversations that are around innovation and creativity?
Okay, thank you so much. Nobert was trying to ask about my view about illiterate Ugandans and those who have poor perspective or perception to external innovation, and how we can make them to appreciate the relevance of innovation. I think the question was around that, right, Nobert?
Yes.
Was it around that?
Yes, the question was around that.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, on illiterate Ugandans having poor perceptions to external innovation, how we can make them to appreciate the relevance of innovation. No, I think now here the most important thing is that the state or the citizen must be able to appreciate the fact that what has been innovated or what has been brought on board is brought to address a given problem or to address a challenge that we face. Once this is made known to someone who, even if illiterate, will be able to appreciate that this technology or this innovation that has come up, whether within or external innovation, must be able to, it must be made known that this is, first of all, not harmful. And I think one of the biggest thing is that our perception is that something that comes externally and we take in can, first of all, be harmful. So if we made such people know that even if it is not innovated from within, but it's not harmful, it doesn't cause danger to us. And we can also make the same thing and also take it or export it, is one of the most fundamental things that can make our people appreciate, first of all, the relevance of innovation. It is what it will make them to appreciate that such products or such services are made to solve problems that we face and are meant to address the challenges that we face. Once this is made clear, I think it will be very imperative that our people will be able to also be able to think around such product, be able to use local resources to actually make more of this product. Because first of all, they know the product is meant to solve a problem that they're facing. The product is safe or the service is safe, and it's also meant to change their way of life. So we think if the state can take this charge through maybe our education system to ensure that even such perception changes, ideological changes are being incorporated into government program. Now we have the Paris development model that has been operationalized to every parish. We think this Paris development model is in the best interest of addressing such problems to the most illiterate person that is in the village there, because it's a decentralized service. It's under the National Development Plan to ensure that services are being brought closer to citizens. And I think if these perception changes are incorporated into such programs of government, we ensure that such informations will reach better to the local person in the village. We ensure that such information will be actually got by from the first hand. So we think if the government can operationalize or incorporate such ideological changes towards innovation, towards foreign innovation that the country gets, because we think there's quality create importation of product or incorporation of innovation or technologies that the country brings. So I think if these perception changes, our annual ideological changes are incorporated into government programs, into our education system, our people will be able to appreciate, first of all, that the importance of innovation, the importance of creativity, and they'll also be able to appreciate and also take it up by themselves. So we think if they take it up, they'll be able to actually generate more ideas, generate more innovation, that what Diana says should be part of the capacity building to also take up theirs and also make sure they also flourish through funding, through support, and through technical guidance. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tim. And of course, from there, we withdraw the guns, and I hold it for myself and shoot at you now. Let me start with Ayella. Ayella, you've been off, and we've not heard from you for some time. And I hope the technical bit of your settings is cleared. You'll not have to switch on your video, but you just may have to maintain where you are. So to you, what should be the economic policy for supporting development of entrepreneurship and innovation? Ayella?
The economy of the country moves with the trending world. And the only way the country can harness the economy is by fitting competitive world, because we believe that the way it harnesses also the use and the communication with the technology around us in order to propel us and grow our economy. So the only way the country can propel is mind around the conversation that comes with the propulsion of economy of the country. It is around having policies that support innovations and then supporting and funding the skillful Ugandans that aim their thinking around the use of technologies in order to use it to harness their business and boosting it. Therefore, this will help in a way that if funding innovation bit, we see that the businesses shall flourish. A Ugandan will be able now to transport his or her property that he or she has manufactured within the country and transport it to a different to the different parts of the world, of which will have a fight with the inflow of income, which always takes away which always takes the profit in repatriations that come away with more of the imports coming out. So therefore, by the supporting of the infant innovators within the country, by the grants, we see that these infant innovators shall be able to export out their skills. And therefore, this conversation that comes with the balance of trade shall be put down. And therefore, we shall find that we shall have more of Uganda's exporting, and we have less of imports. And therefore, that brings the conversation that comes around inflation being in the country not to be there. The next thing that we can see that is it will always harness the aspect of competition. Our business sector and the sector that answers our economy shall go around having a conversation that by the use of the technology, we shall harness the competition that is within the citizens of the country and the import and the sister countries that have their innovators. And therefore, the innovators of this country shall now be propelled to always look at the technology and fit into the trends. And therefore, that competition will be encouraged. And therefore, we shall find that there shall be more of the exports that go out and the imports that go out. And therefore, it will silence the idea of inflation. It will also silence the idea of that there shall be more repatriations of capital that comes out of the profit, and therefore we shall find that money is going to be made into circulation of the country that will propel into the idea of infrastructure development in the skills of the different people. And therefore that's, I believe, in the entrepreneurial world that only has a conversation of fitting in society by the use of your skill in order for you to have a gain. We shall feel that by that the economy of the country shall be boosted, and we see that there shall be a viable change in the sector.
Interesting. That's a mouthful, and thank you for that. Then bring in Brian. Brian, I want you also to weigh in this aspect of the economic policy for supporting development of entrepreneurship and innovation.
Okay, thank you. Now the question of the economic policy is in relation to the idea of creativity and innovation can be best answered by one thing. The idea is that the government policies and then frameworks should be able to provide a conducive environment for the idea of the development of creativity and then innovation. Now the question then is, how does the government provide a conducive environment for the development of creativity and innovation within the entrepreneurship aspects? One thing that the government has to do is that, okay, I'll draw this from the introduction that Nobert basically made. I think that what the government basically can do in the first place is, first of all, to shelter the infant entrepreneurs from, let's say, unfair competitions, both from within the country and then from outside the country, that is in the international market. So what the government basically can do is to increase custom duties on the imports that are coming into the country in the same field as the infant industries or the infant entrepreneurs that are within the country. What this basically does is that this kind of policy shelters the infant entrepreneurs from competition that would basically take them out of the market. This is the first thing. But then the second thing is that the government can provide a conducive environment for the development of these infant industries by, first of all, reducing the taxation or the levies that are levied on the goods that are produced by these entrepreneurs or the ventures or the business ventures that are engaged into by these entrepreneurs. The idea is that if the government levies less taxes on these infant industries, income, so as to expand on these entrepreneurship sectors at the end of the day. So what the government basically can do to provide a conducive environment is, first of all, to shelter infant entrepreneurs from unfair competition from outside and then from inside. But then secondly, to reduce on the taxation that is left on them, to allow them to accumulate more income and also to allow them space to expand through the income that they have made. So basically, those are the two economic policies that I think would be very fundamental for the growth of the creative and innovative industries in the entrepreneurship aspects. So yeah, that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian, for that. Let me jump onto Lega and Bosco. Right here, we earlier saw Ayella talk about some of the drivers that possibly hinder or are important in ensuring that we have innovation and creative. And this run around social capital, social economic, cultural. He highlighted some of these drivers, and that's why I would want to just channel our conversation for you, Diana and Bosco. How can a country like Uganda be an innovative driver? And possibly, what are the governmental cultural aspects? We want to first discuss the cultural aspect. What are governmental and cultural aspects that are stopping and hindering the ability to innovate? One, the governmental, and the other, possibly the cultural, that are really stopping our ability to innovate. And possibly, yes, like, let me rephrase it. How can a country like Uganda be an innovative driver? That's one question. But also, what are the governmental and cultural aspects that are hindering our ability to innovate as a country?
Thank you very much, moderator. The first question, I can only respond it in the way that what government should do is to enhance, like I said, it has to ensure capacity building of these innovative sectors, especially the agricultural sector, because our life depends on agriculture. Because we take a look at the kind of local agricultural, let me say, tools and others that the young growing innovators use down there, they are really alarming. So if their capacity can be built up and they can be funded, as Tiondi said, that there is need for funding these particular sectors that are undergoing innovation, then their government will be doing goodwill and fair to its state. Now, government has to also come up with a policy. We have all talked about policies and all that. The mechanism and strategies that is going to ensure that at least innovation is developed and is boosted in our state. Government has to look at such a mechanism. For example, I look at the young people out there, almost especially the youth. Now, a youth startup which is starting up a life, let me say, has an idea of making liquid soap and other things. Now, what should government come up down to ensure and make this particular person realize it? Because we also think that if government only fund this particular youth, it's going to enhance laziness and they sit back and wait for government money. Government has to educate them and make them aware on the risk and the importance of innovation, so that they can stand up, and once they are being financed once, they can move it on they can bring it up and they develop it. Because if you keep on only thinking about government has to fund, what about other sectors that we have that has to be brought up on board? Not only that, don't you think it's going to enhance laziness? Let us educate them on how they can build up their capacity. Let us make them aware of the advantages of innovation and creativity. Now, to the second question on government cultural aspects that are hindering the ability, we take a look at leadership.
It is governmental. Yeah, I want you to give the aspects, the hindering factors that are governmental, but also the hindering factors that are cultural.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to. So on the governmental hindering factors or government aspects that are hindering the ability, enhancing innovation, we take a look at leadership. Leadership in this state is very alarming, because the leadership we have right now, there is no political independence. So without political independence, the idea of the people is not being taken into consideration. So government has to ensure political independence, so that once an idea that is going to bring about the economic development and raising standards of living of the people in the state has to be brought up. Now, not only that, government has to focus on collaboration, because what government mostly funds an individual, does not fund teamwork of a particular person. Government funds a group, but that group, how do they come up together? So once government is ensuring in its policy, once government is coming up with its policy, let government come up with a collaborative idea that is going to enhance development of this particular innovation. Then also, on the resources, government has to ensure that we have adequate resources in ensuring that there is a hindrance of lack of resources that government has failed to fight it, because government wants an innovative person or group has an idea of a particular thing, government tend to set back, claiming they don't have the resources, because sometimes we say there is corruption within the state. Now, if government can fight corruption and the money that is supposed to be used to fund this particular innovation idea, then their government is going to be good to go. So what are the cultural aspects that is really hindering the ability? We realize that the cultural aspect, hello, am I being heard? Hello?
Yes, you're on. Yeah.
So the cultural aspect is here, that it deals with the ethical perception. So the ethical perception of the people out there, not only the people, but not only a particular person, but the entire traditional and people in the community against the local innovation. It is really alarming, and it's really letting down our innovative ideas going down. Because let us take a very close example during COVID-19, when people came up with an idea that, yes, let us use the local herbs that we have to fight against COVID. Now, there were people that were fighting against it. Now, such a perception that your local herb or your local idea cannot fight against this particular thing, it's also a problem. So let us first, if we really want to achieve the development of innovation sectors, let us first fight perception, because the perception has been a hindrance to all this. Not only that, another cultural hindrance is fear. Let me say, most people in our community has a very great fear against failing, risk taking, because people have an idea that once I go for this particular thing, then there is chances of them boost our economy. So the failing to achieve a particular goal is also a very wrong thing that is really hindered with this. I can rest here. So those are the governmental hindering really. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you very much for that almost a 360 approach. Bosco.
Okay, thank you so much. On the question of how can countries like Uganda be drivers of innovation? I think for that does not attain middle income status to be a driver innovation, first of all, they must first have the enabling institutional framework. Because we think that if you have an enabling institutional framework that can best guide and support innovation, and can best guide and support creativity, then then you must first focus on the enabling environment. Now we have seen over the years, Uganda has been running under the Ministry of Education and Sports. But of late, we have now seen the incorporation of the Ministry of Science, Innovation, and Technology. So we think such enabling institutions like the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation are very relevant, inspiring and supporting innovations, and that is all around innovation. So we think when such enabling institutional frameworks are being established, are being operationalized to the local level, you can see that there's this ministry under Dr. Monica Msenero, but when you look at the downer districts, you come to districts like maybe Buko, you go to districts like Kishoro, you may even find that they actually have no direct coordination offices with the district, within the district local government. So we think this is still, first of all, a disadvantage to innovation. We think for countries like Uganda to be drivers of innovation, such decentralization of such most important line ministry that provide the best institutional framework for spearheading and ensuring that innovation step is very fundamental. For example, innovations that come, you can see some of them are centralized. So we also think that there must be strengthened protection of patent. Yeah, we have witnessed a case in point when the COVID came. We have seen the inventor of the course that Jenna Harbour actually a fight in Bara University of Science and Technology of who actually owns the product. We think that for the country like Uganda to be a driver of innovation, such patent rights and protection or property protection of such product must be strengthened and may be ensured that the person who innovates takes the full control and the right of the product. We think that this actually will eliminate fights of a product, which can actually kill the product's perception. Now, when the public saw Mbara University fighting over COVID with Jenna Harbors, people actually lose trust in the product, first of all. So we think for the country to be drive of innovation, they must first of all ensure that there's quality assurance in the product. This quality assurance will be strengthened to ensure that there's no fight of a given product, so that a product that comes in market is well accredited and is given the right to the person to the farm that innovated it, so that there will not be problem of perception and there will be quality assurance of such product. We think this is very relevant to innovation. Now, what is hindering innovation? That the governmental factor hindering innovation is, first of all, I think that there's poor political will to local innovation. First of all, when we think if there's poor political will to local innovation, we think it kills the innovation. Now, see when MPs are voted into parliament, they are given iPhones, and we see there's also a number of the industry here that is manufacturing semi-mobile. Semi-mobile is a local farm that is making phones. Now we think that if even the state actually cannot prioritize marketing its local product to its people, we think it's actually in a disadvantage and a hindering factor to local innovation. We think that Simi Mobile even makes smartphones, and if government wants to buy phones to its workers, like member parliaments who are given free phones, we think they must prioritize the marketing of such local product, because for you to promote increase integrity of the product in the market and to ensure that it flourishes and is sustainable, you must also promote its marketing. Now, if you see countries like Rwanda advertising in European football, like with us, visited Rwanda, we think they're promoting the local football through creative ideas like advertising with one of the biggest clubs in the world. And I think that creativity that is supported by government is a true reflection of political will that is not in Uganda. In Uganda, actually, we think that there's poor political will towards innovation, maybe through advertisement or through seeking external support to ensure that our local products are marketed. And we think even when political errors are coming, government of Uganda is seeking technology from Hawaii. Hawaii is a technology farm based in China. So if the state doesn't have no trust and political will towards its local innovation, towards its local invention, we think it has not actually is the biggest factor hindering local innovation. Now we also think another governmental factor that is hindering innovation is poor enabling infrastructure. We have seen schools suffer because they have no computers. We think that there is no wireless network, and the local network that is there that the people who use are highly taxed. So we think this is actually poor the poor infrastructure that enables operationalization of innovative ideas through technology is one of the biggest governmental factors, because government has less invested in ensuring this and enabling structure. Even in government institutions, you see even government universities have even poor computer, poor ICT incubation hub that can actually be able to harness the power of such innovations. I think like what Diana said, another factor maybe governmental is hindering is this poor policy, like the high tax I have talked about, and also the poor patent protection right that is also a bigger factor that's governmental. And I think those policy frameworks will be strengthened to ensure that it addresses such problems. Now, cultural, I think, as he said, there's the biggest problem around perception. You see, if there's the biggest problem around perception, then people will not be able to accept. And when there's no acceptability, I think that the innovation will not take shape within the local community. Now, we see cultural, we also think there's a problem around moral independence of the people, and also the diversity that has not been harmonized. We think for some innovation to take shape, there must be a harmonization into perception of such thing that we think can solve the problem of the community. Now, another thing is also resources. We think, though we have locally endowed natural resources, but we don't have the capacity or we don't have the resources to utilize them. Maybe you go to Kilembe mine when you go to areas where there's maybe natural resources, but if the capacity of the people are not there, so we think culturally that one hinders the utilization of those resources, and also expounding and also be able to innovate creatively use so those resources. We think culturally resource capacity and perception are one of the biggest problems hindering innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bosco. Thank you very much, Diana, Ayella, and of course Brian, for that extensive discussion. Our time is one more of a closing question that is going to be answered by each one of you in 2 minutes. And while you also answer this question, you also need to give your in this 2 minutes, you give your way forward and in short in these 2 minutes. So the question is on COVID-19. Possibly whether is COVID-19 going to serve as an engine from the subsistence approach? Shall we see COVID-19 be a steer to innovation? Are we seeing it already? So that is a question I'd want us to discuss as we conclude. But also you give your way forwards and any parting shots that you have for the discussion. I'll start with Leka. The way we started, Leka, Brian, Bosco, then Ayella.
Let me repeat on the question. I didn't get it well.
Is COVID-19 going to serve as an engine to innovation from subsistence approach? Have you got me?
I think COVID-19 has been a subsidizing method thing or aspect towards innovation, because one, why do I say all this? When COVID-19 came up, first of all, someone might argue that COVID-19 made other innovative measures to be realized, but first we realized that COVID-19 came with an hindering idea of dividing away from employment, because with innovation it comes up with an employment opportunity to the people. Now, what was the main challenge? It's facilities and finances that came up as a very key challenge during this COVID-19 period, because very many people had their innovative idea, people had their creative idea, but because of the pandemic that came in and restrained our finances, we realized that indeed people could not evolve their innovative idea. People could not move on because of COVID-19. So indeed, I find that it has been a subsidizing aspect towards innovation and creative development in this country. But now, after that COVID-19 should not be looked at as something that has been an hindering too much to it. But what about tomorrow? Because with COVID-19, it is now a new normal that we need to adapt to. So this addresses my mind to the question of what about the Uganda tomorrow? Because COVID has brought up a new normal that innovators has to look up to and has to take in and ensure that they develop themselves. So with this, I think the discussion has been fine. Very glad to be part of this discussion. I think I can end there.
Thank you very much, Lake Diana Campus, for these wonderful thoughts and for being us quite informed and also helping us to dissect and also guide the discussion today. Let me go to Brian.
Yeah.
Yes, first record the question again. I didn't pick it clearly.
We're trying to understand whether COVID-19 has really served as an engine to innovation from literally the subsistence thought we had.
Okay. Now, coming to the conclusion of this discussion, I think that main question of whether COVID-19 has been an engine to the idea of creativity and innovation is actually one that is very important earlier. That basically, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck in, realized that through the COVID-19 standard operating procedures and then the protocols to make sure that we were able to contain the disease and also to avoid it getting spread to very many other parts and to avoid many fatalities, you realize that through the standard operating procedures, people lost their jobs. In the market economy, the producers were not able to access the consumers and all those other things. COVID-19 realized that the idea of creativity and innovation came to us as a last resort. For example, if people could not access markets, if sellers could not access buyers, then what was the final resort? The final resort was to put into account an online system of selling and buying where at the end of the day, the seller is able to deliver the goods at the doorsteps of the buyers. So at the end of the day, we analyzed the fact that the COVID-19 made sure that the embracing of the idea of creativity and innovation was inevitable, because you realize that at some point in time, you had to choose whether you can buy things online, that is to embrace the idea of creativity and innovation, or to buy things from the physical markets, which was basically an idea that is one that is not creative and also not innovative, but then that is only traditional. So the idea of COVID-19 basically served as an engine because it left us first of all with no choice but to embrace the idea of creativity and innovation through technology. That is basically one thing. But then secondly, the idea of COVID-19 basically opened our eyes to the fact that there is always that changing trend of events in the human society that will require us to actually establish or let's say produce something that is out of the box, something that is generally new, because we'll have to always keep on producing something new to cope up with the changes in society. So we think that basically COVID-19 served as an engine because it was able to show us, it was able to act as an eye opener to the fact that we should be able to embrace the idea of creativity and innovation so as to cope up with the general changes that happen in society. So at the end of the day, we think that COVID-19 was able to change the trend of events and to move us closer to embracing in totality the idea of creativity and innovation. And basically, the other thing that I want to say is that Uganda should also be able to use the resources that it has. For example, the cultural institutions, for example, the archaeological sites and all those other things that it has in its disposal to basically increase the idea of creativity and innovation. I'll give an analogy of the Rio de Janeiro Carnival Festival that happens every year. For example, the fact that it attracts a lot and a lot of people and it generates very large income to the GDP of Brazil as a country. So we think that if Uganda is able to harness all these resources that it has at hand, to harness all these cultural resources and to harness all these other artistic designs and all those other stuff in the benefits of the nation in creativity and innovation, we think that Uganda can be able to prosper as a nation while embracing creativity and innovation. But then basically the last thing that I'd recommend is the fact that since it's evident that the idea of creativity and innovation basically comes, okay, let's say largely comes out of the vocational and technical training institutes, we think that the people of Uganda should be ready to embrace these institutions and also embrace them hand in hand with the traditional courses that people might love to have. For example, we realize that in Uganda, it's a common perception that each and every child, let's say below the age of 16 or below the age of 15, if you ask them what do you want to become, they'll tell you I want to become a doctor, they'll tell you I want to become a lawyer, but then realize that these are traditional things that limit our idea of creativity and innovation. So we think that if you are to influence their thoughts closer to the idea of vocational institutions whereby they're able to create new things and able to initiate new innovation, we think that this will play positively in the development of creativity and innovation. So with this, I think the discussion has been very fruitful and then very enriching. So basically, those are the ideas that I think would be very important to embrace creativity and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian, for those thoughts. And now, Tiondi, then we conclude with Ayella.
Yes, thank you so much. On the question of whether COVID-19 are being a driver to innovation compared to the systems approach. So I would like to also think that thank you that even before COVID-19, there's innovation. Uganda has been undergoing innovation. There has been, even before COVID-19, in education, we have the education information management system. We have the incorporated the financial information management system in our financial systems, in the Ministry of Finance, and in different financial transaction systems, and the online banking system that came out of innovation and has been actually appreciated in Uganda. But when we say during the a period of COVID-19, when there's actually a lot of unprecedented happenings by rules, there's procedures and the lockdown rules that restricts movement and interaction amid these people. We have seen people adopting new trends of how to do things. People always to have parties online, always to have business transactions online, and actually a lot of that being happening. The adoption and appreciation of the various technological ways of transaction, ways of interaction, and ways of running up activities. So for that matter, it's actually evident that COVID-19 as situation and a period has actually been a greater engine to local appreciation and to local adoption to various innovation, technological, maybe ICT, through the incubation hubs, through the mobile phones, mobile devices, online transactions, and online businesses. So we think that it has been a very big good driver. And even if it would be the same situation or not, or COVID or not, I think situation has set a very good precedence first for the state to acknowledge the relevance of innovation, to also, second of all, ensure that the citizen and the people also appreciate that innovation is the way to go, and actually it fastens the substance, the time of work, and it also saves cost. For you to go and buy something in Kampala and for you to order it via Jumuia and reach your doorstep, it's quite cheaper. And still, it has set a very good precedence for us to accept innovation and to spearhead people's and state adoption. So we think that it has actually also given time for us to evaluate ourselves and also given us a way forward of how best we can invest in innovation. And I think this one should be strengthened through our education system and should be strengthened in our healthcare system. We have seen right now there's a drone technology that takes COVID-19 samples from one district to another. This has never been before in the Ministry of Health. It only came due to the COVID-19 situation. Right now, there's a drone technology that can take a sample from Kitgum to Gulu within few minutes. So we think this is why the COVID-19 situation became relevant in ensure that we adopt technology and innovation in our healthcare system, in our education system, in our service delivery. So we think this is very important that the state actually now operationalize and actually be able to prioritize such things in service delivery and also be able to do away with the perception challenges that hinders our people from adopting innovation and actually appreciating the relevance of innovation in shaping communities and improving the way of life. I think that is very important that COVID-19 situation has brought and that I can put on. Thank you so much. And thank you, CCG, for this engagement.
Asante sana, Tiondi. And finally, Ayella.
As per the other panelists, I pick up from where Tiondi introduces the aspect that we have had advancement that comes with technology and also have had creativity in the aspect even before COVID-19. The conversation that we have now that can now tell us about what COVID-19 has done is, for right now, we believe that the only thing that we are seeing is the adaptation of the different citizens and Uganda as a country to live within the COVID-19. That's why we are seeing that the different institutions of learning, for example, Gulu University adopting Gwele, we are seeing Makerere adopting Gwele, and then we are seeing Zoom being picked up clearly by Chambogo. And therefore, the different institutions, we see them getting back into the institutions of learning by getting and adopting and having adaptation and surviving through the process. Now, what we see that COVID-19 has shall do is an encouraged way of a different startup, how he or she is supposed to survive into a trending world. Because we believe that the startups that we have always have, for example, the youth that start up businesses, they have always have information that when they come into the business world, the online basis is not a question that can put down their businesses. Now, the next question that we have is we shall see that a startup business person will think around how can I survive in a way is centered on the idea that there is online business hub. Therefore, we shall find that a startup will always now think of always now having a website, will think of using maybe an app, for example, will copy now from the trend that Jumia and other business hubs have always put up to Easters. Therefore, we shall find that these startups that shall be in the future, because of the information that we have gotten from here, that it has created and pushed people to adopt into it. We shall see now in the future, a person who is starting up will think of having a hub that he or she can converse with. And therefore, this faster push that comes with an idea that a person will now get depth into the business world by a push that, because now the COVID has come, movement is limited, now the person is pushed out by force to get into the adoption of apps like, or innovations like Zoom and others shall not be that. We shall see that these people shall get into the business world when they're already into it, and therefore that will boost the economy of the country. The next thing that Uganda as a country, as a stakeholder into this conversation is collaborations. We saw during the COVID-19, there was an expo that was in Dubai. In that expo, Uganda took along their products and showcased it physically at the expo, with the physicality of the representatives there. But we see a collaboration that can be done by a small sister country, that is Rwanda. Rwanda did an innovative mind around the technology of one exposing their tourism sector in Dubai without their personnel all being there. By that, the people who will want to see something in Rwanda, they will only buy a view of virtually through a video technology that reflects back to Rwanda, we are able. So by that we see that it is going to help Uganda in the way that the sale of its tourism sector shall not be a problem because of a collaboration that they have done with Rwanda. And therefore another collaboration can be in the different institutions. The different institutions can converse with, let me say, Gulu University as an institution can converse with Chambogo on the ace harness of how they're communicating with the innovation of the world. Even they can have a collaboration of relationship with other universities that are outside. For example, universities that can be in USA like Harvard, it can be a university like Oxford that is let me say in UK. By that collaboration, there shall be a faster learning and share of ideas. And these ideas will harness creativity and innovation skills. And therefore, with that, we see that communication basis shall be there, and this will help the different stakeholders into the moving with the trends, and therefore there shall not be a push in with a big force, but there shall be always now adaptation, and therefore we shall see that any person who will come now with the business will adopt, and therefore Uganda as a country, by collaborating with others, Uganda will be able to strike and the balance that come with the competition, and therefore we shall see that Uganda will move forward. Otherwise, I thank everyone, and it has been a fruitful discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayella, Nobert, Mao, for those final and wonderful concluding remarks that you've given us. Also, thank you to all of you, the members and the panelists from Gulu University. This has been Group B, as exciting, and it's very exciting group. I personally would want to believe it is a group of death into these inter-university competitions, with Nkumba University, with MAST, Bara University, and St. Lawrence University. Very powerful universities, very powerful brains, very brilliant minds that are discussing through these inter-university conversations. And very powerful concluding open and start of the new year, where we hope to have a physical conversation with the rest of your group members. We hope that you can package these thoughts closely and sharpen them so well for the real competition that is ahead of you. And of course, these dates will be shared, but you'll have to be tuned in to here on the Civic Space TV, where everything is happening. Everything is happening here. And please be part of the conversation. Thank you very much for being on today. And of course, I hope you're enjoying your holidays and your festivities. This has been the Civic Space TV Center for Constitutional Governance, and Masesa Demiano here, stepping in for Gender Like a Fancy, and of course Godwin Toko, who are our key moderators for these conversations. Thank you, and we hope to meet in the next conversations.